On this episode of the Armchair Army podcast, we have a special guest. His name is Ryan Maine. He's going to go over his experiences as a WSU golfer. He is from Freeman High School, so we are going to go over his recruitment experience and what it was like coming from that small school trying to get a D1 scholarship. We also have the regional roundup for you, so we're going to talk some regional football, some Cougs going 7-0 at home this year, some Boise State football, some impressive wins this week by teams in the area, so we're going to go over all of that for you. I can't wait to talk to you guys, so without further ado, let's roll. All right, I am so pumped to bring the podcast. One of my good friends, back from my hometown, Spokane, Ryan Maine, current WSU golfer and Freeman alumni. Ryan, how are you doing?
Doing good, Clayton. Doing good up here at Pullman. It's started to snow the last few days, and weather's kind of turning, so...
I mean, I saw all the snow and everything like that, and my heart hurt a little bit for you, but how are you adapting to the snow there? I know you're from Spokane, so this is just a regular day in the park.
Yeah, it's not much of a change. It actually snows a little less here, I think. When I was picked up in Spokane this weekend, it seemed like we got a little bit more snow.
Hey, that's good. That's good. So, for those of you who don't know, Ryan Maine, from a small town, he's just outside of Spokane. He went to Freeman High School, 300-person high school, and now he is a D1 golfer. Ryan, what was it like coming from that small town and kind of adapting to Pullman? I know Pullman's a small town, but what was it like adapting to D1 life?
Yeah, it's kind of a big change because going to a small school, kind of just feels like you're on top of everything, and then kind of jumped here, and that's been a big change for me for this semester. You're kind of back down on the bottom, working your way back up, but it's been going good so far. Just been working away, working out a lot, and working on the game. This semester didn't go as planned, but...
Hey, are you talking grades-wise, or what? Do your parents not want to hear this podcast?
Oh, no, grades are good. Golf-wise is what I'm talking about. But, I don't know, I'm just adjusting to life down here and kind of being away from home. So
yeah, absolutely. Huge change going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's been a big change from Freeman, I'm away from... Freeman's like really your second home when you go there. It's such a small community, and moving away from there is a really big change. And I'm adjusting well, though, getting used to life down here. Got a lot of good friends down here, so that helps.
You bet, absolutely. It's a huge change. And for those of people who don't know, this school is literally 300 kids plus, and it's in a small farm town. So coming from that and going to WSU has to be like the biggest change. But let's go through your recruitment a little bit. So being from that small school, you don't get a lot of looks being in 1A, that classification, and not a lot of people are going to be at those tournaments unless you get to the state tournament. What was your recruitment like?
Yeah, I just had to reach out to a lot of coaches and kind of put myself out there instead of them more of coming to me, sending a lot of emails, calling coaches, and just doing that kind of a thing instead of just my name being out there all the time. I mean, it was a little bit, but it was just in Spokane, which isn't a huge market or big recruiting place. So I just had to, send a lot of emails, call coaches, and really just put my name out there.
Yeah, for sure. And for the D1 offers and stuff like that, how many did you eventually get talking to the coaches and stuff like that?
I think maybe like 4 or 5. I'm not really sure. I wasn't really counting. I don't know. There was a lot of good schools that I considered, and I liked all the coaches. They were all really good, and all the programs. But I'm happy with where I'm at, and I love it here. It's close to home, and love my coaches and team, and love how everything's going.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. So you being down in Pullman now, and I know that you're having a ton of fun. How is the football games, and how is the atmosphere in Pullman?
Oh, it's unreal. Some of these games just at home have been been so much fun, and talking to alumni over at the tailgates and stuff, and talking to them about, when they went to school here, they'd have seasons where they'd win 2 or 3 games, and how lucky we are to go to school here when we could maybe win 10 games this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially a bowl game. You guys might win the Pac-12 championship, might win a bowl game. You could win 12 games this year, which is absolutely nuts. And I talked to Noah a couple months ago about how different the atmosphere is, just going from winning 1 or 2 games a season to now going undefeated at home. It's pretty crazy. But going into just some golf talk in general here, Tiger is now back. He's going to play at the Hero World Championship. What's your thoughts on Tiger coming back?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to be excited anyone about this. I mean, it's probably still the biggest name in golf out there, and I hope he can. I'm not expecting a ton out of this first tournament, although if you've seen videos of his swing, it's really looked good, and I'm hoping he can just keep building off this tournament and hopefully stay away from any injuries, and just hopefully by Masters next year he'll be ready to go.
For sure. And him, what's your expectations of him going forward? Do you expect him to try and reach Jack's championship title, or is it going to be unattainable for him?
I think it's going to be tough. I think it's just where the kind of the state of the game's at. I think there's so many good young players right now, and there's so many good players out there. It's so hard to dominate the game with how many good players and how many players can go out every week and have a realistic shot of winning. I mean, I know everyone has a shot of winning when you tee it up, but realistically right now there's so many young guys that are playing well. It's going to be so hard to dominate, and I know he only has to win a few more, but it's going to be tough. There's so many guys. I mean, Justin Thomas, so many other guys, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Jason Day. There's so many guys right now that are just so good.
Yeah, there is a ton of guys that could, you're right, realistically win a championship any given day. I know you're a huge Tiger fan. Besides Tiger, who do you usually root for?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I love all those young guys. I love Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, that whole group, Ricky Fowler. They're fun. Obviously, Dustin Johnson, he's just bombs, and it's fun to watch them play. They're all so fun to play because they just bomb it and they get after it. And I would probably say my favorite would maybe have to be Justin Thomas, especially after the year he's had. It's 59. It's pretty crazy what he's done. Yeah,
and that spring break crew. How bad do you want to go on one of those?
Oh gosh, that would be unreal. Smiley Kaufman, I love him. He's kind of he's probably the less known out of their thing, but I love all them. They're so funny. I love watching their Snapchat stories and all their stuff. They seem like a really, really good group of guys.
Yeah, super funny too. I mean, you see all of these guys go shirtless down a course, Justin Thomas, all of those guys, and you see Ricky teeing it up with no shirt on and just hitting an absolute bomb. That's so fun to watch. I can't even imagine teeing it up with any of those guys.
Yeah, I know. That would be an experience. It's cool to see them kind of have fun and just get out and enjoy their time and not just be right in the spotlight all the time. And they didn't really get a lot of criticism for that. Some people could have taken it negatively, but realistically, they're just young guys and they're having fun. So it's cool to see.
And you definitely bring up a good point with not getting any criticism for it. It's kind of weird when you see like a Johnny Manziel or the Giants team last year go and party on a yacht before the playoffs, but you see these guys for spring break, they're living it up, going and partying in Mexico and golfing, and they're almost praised for it, which is kind of funny, right?
Yeah, it is. But I read some articles that were kind of bashed on it, but when it comes down to it, they're just young guys, and they're having fun. 1 week, they're letting loose and having fun. And other than that, they're grinding every week and just working so hard. So, it's good to get away from the game and just kind of enjoy your time. So, it is good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who do not know Ryan, he is a huge NBA fan, so we're going to get into a little NBA talk with him. LeBron, the Cavs, they're struggling right now. Do you think they'll still make the playoffs and make a deep run here?
Oh yeah, I think There's no way. I'm not a huge LeBron fan. Kobe guy kind of, but he seriously is one of he's probably top 2 player ever to play, and he'll make sure they make the playoffs, and he'll make sure that they make a run. I don't see them not. I mean, their defense, it's not the best. I don't know. A couple games I've watched of them, it seems kind of a couple of guys their defense is lacking, but they'll have to pick it up, and I think they will.
Yeah, especially because they're so old. So they're the oldest team in the NBA by an average of 2 years, which is crazy to think. But their biggest struggle is going to be staying healthy throughout the year with Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, Kevin Love, all of those guys coming back from injuries last year. So yeah, you're totally right. LeBron though, he's gonna be one of those guys that puts up 57 because his team needs it. So we actually were talking about a surprise team that we like earlier in the year. We love the T-Wolves. Give me a little bit on the T-Wolves.
Yeah, I love that team. I think they have a lot of good young talent, and they're sitting second in the West right now, and they weren't talked a lot from what I saw in the preseason, and I think you better watch out for them. Teams better watch out for them. I think they're on a 5-game win streak right now. I think if they get hot, who do they have? Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns. I think they can really fill it up if they get going.
Yeah, and one of the most underrated teams in the league with the big 3. I mean, everybody talks about their big 3 that they have, and with Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jimmy Butler, I don't know if there's going to be another trio that's going to be closer to the top 5 that's not talked about than them. So it will be really interesting as the year goes on. But yeah, I love the T-Wolves, man. That team is going to be good for a long, long time. So it's really cool to see, especially Karl Anthony Towns being one of those players that wasn't really talked about. He got drafted number 1. It was kind of a surprise, and now he's crushing it.
Yeah,
so.
And they even got some veterans, Jamal Crawford. I liked it. I like that team a lot.
Yeah, and they're good defensively, which is so underrated when it comes to a young team like that because everybody wants to score the ball and be a Kyrie Irving. But, I mean, they can play some defense. And Jamal Crawford has been one of the best 6-man for 10 years, so it's been awesome to see.
If you can have him to throw in at the end of the quarter, at the end of the game, I think that's a pretty good option to go to.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, it's been awesome to have you on, buddy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. Good luck in the Pac-12. When does your season start?
We started this fall already, and we actually just finished, and I think our first tournament in the spring is the end of January. So get that going pretty quick after Christmas break.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ryan, good luck moving forward. Hope you have a better luck in the spring, but thank you again for coming on.
All right, I appreciate it, Clayton.
You bet. Huge shout out to Ryan Maine for coming on the podcast and talking about his experience coming from that small school and being a D1 athlete now, and also talking a little bit of NBA with us. As always, we greatly appreciate you coming on the podcast. We are actually going to get into some regional roundup now. As always, we are going to start with Washington. University of Washington won 38-3 over University of Oregon. Dante Pettis with his FBS record, 8th punt return for a touchdown, his 3rd this year. Absolutely incredible, dynamic player they have over in Seattle. So awesome to see him break that FBS record. And they actually have Stanford up next. They are going to Stanford, so that should be a great game. Over to Pullman, WSU went 7-0 this year against teams coming into Martin Stadium. They won 24-21 over Stanford. Not a pretty win, but a win nonetheless over a ranked Stanford team. And Stanford actually falls out of the ranking with the loss, and WSU moves up to number 19. Huge win for the Cougs as they have to finish out strong on the road. They have University of Utah up next. Down into Oregon, we already talked about the Ducks losing to UW, and Oregon State over in Corvallis, they lost to Cal 37-23. Each game, it looks like they are getting better and better, so it's nice to see that their program is not just competing in these games, but also making these games close and looking like they have some talent to move forward. They have Arizona up next. Going into Utah, BYU had a 2013 loss to Fresno State, a very good Fresno State team, actually. It looks like Tanner Magnum and the BYU Cougars are getting a little bit more healthy and being more competitive, but nonetheless, they dropped to 2-8. Over to University of Utah, they had a big win over UCLA 5-4. That makes them, and they beat down a good Josh Rosen, and they are actually playing the Cougs up next in Utah, so that should be a good matchup to look for. Boise State, huge win over Nevada. They are now 7-2 and 5-0 in conference. 41-14 win over Nevada. Brett Rippon looks like he's actually throwing the ball really well. Their two-headed monster came out again with Kozart catching a pass, running, and also throwing a couple passes as well. Cedric Wilson actually took a couple snaps. If you remember, he's a high school quarterback, so watch out for him going forward. But great to see the Broncos on the offensive side of the ball there. And we are going to finish it up with Idaho. They lost 24-21 to Troy. Troy actually is the team that beat LSU a couple of weeks ago. So for Idaho to keep this game close was really cool. Linehan got hurt in this game, Idaho's quarterback. So we should see if he plays the rest of his senior year. But a great game by the Vandals. They play Coastal Carolina this year, which is very ironic because Coastal Carolina is taking their spot in the Sun Belt as Idaho moves to the FCS. So that will be it for me. Thank you guys for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Go subscribe on iTunes. Go like our page. Like always, every Thursday we are starting our Facebook Lives at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. We always love to interact with the fans. Don't forget, Good Vibes, Bad Vibes is up this Thursday. We also will talk to Miles Clifford and Shane Larson from 60 Days of Living and the Game Time Guru, so you're not going to want to miss that. But that will be it for me. You guys all have a great rest of your week.